The Many Pieces of Mr. Coup, which came out earlier this past week, is a point and click adventure game with a very unique art style, hand drawn animations across the board for the different characters and things that you interact with in the game. It also has some picturesque backgrounds, almost like I Spy in a way, where you can kind of jump around and move around the environment that is, real world stuff, but there's animated stuff over top of it. The Many Pieces of Mr. Coup starts off pretty basic. You're just kind of learning the ropes of the game, clicking on things pretty much. And the first couple of puzzles are pretty interesting. It is mostly a puzzle game, so you're going to be solving various puzzles with Mr. Coup, and the Many Pieces of Mr. Coup doesn't really start to have the pieces part of this until the end of the game, which is quite weird in my opinion. So the game is a bit short, and that was a little bit disappointing for me because I was really into this for a little while, and I think the game. I know it's setting itself up for like some sort of sequel or add-on at the end of it all, but the main course of the game is just not. I don't know. It's just like it's fine, but it doesn't do enough. It really doesn't. Like a lot of, even though there's some puzzles that are intricately designed, you're not gonna have that much trouble getting around it. Like there's some obscure things you have to do here or there, which is par for the course in any point and click adventure game. But it's like the puzzles aren't in depth enough to cause me to say like, oh yeah, you gotta play this if you're a point and click adventure fan. If you're a fan of crazy and like I don't I honestly couldn't recommend this one to most people. I think that there's some good ideas going on here, but the really good ideas that the game does have don't show up until the end, and then even then it's not fully utilized because what happens in the Many Pieces of Mr. Coup? Well, he gets cut into three different pieces, but that happens more than halfway through the game. And the final part of the game is essentially you as the head of Mr. Coup going around and trying to collect the other two pieces of your body. And by the time you get the third piece of your body, the game is practically over, which is very disappointing in a lot and for many different reasons. One of them being that it would have been really fun to do more puzzle solving with the three different parts separated for Mr. Coup. Some of the most fun I had in this game was being just the head or the legs, and you can switch between the two and do different puzzles with each part of your body. That was the most fun I had with the game. But unfortunately, it only lasted for maybe about 10 or 15 minutes while I solved different puzzles, and then the game eventually gave you the third piece of Mr. Coup. But at that time, like I said before, that's pretty much the end, and that is really unfortunate because it was really starting to ramp up and give me something to recommend the game for. But in the end, it was just too short and it just did not give me the full experience that I was really hoping for, unfortunately. The animation is beautiful. I think the hand-drawn art is amazing, especially the different animations for when Mr. Coup is doing things. There's plenty of different characters that you meet that have these wacky and crazy designs, and they're also very well animated. One of my favorites being like this demon guy who's like riding a bicycle. Like the animation on him is so smooth and so fluid. I just love the way that it looks. And yeah, like the different puzzle elements are also really like there's some really fun stuff in there. I mean, there's a puzzle where you have to like you're riding on top of like a baby chick, and Mr. Coup is like running around the background, so you have to kind of do things in order to get him to grab things while he's passing by and stuff like that. And I thought that was a pretty fun section of the game. And of course, the ending puzzle was pretty well done with the switching between the head and the legs. But like I said, I just wanted more. I wanted more out of this game, and I know that there's probably going to be a second game or maybe an expansion or a DLC coming for this one, which is what they set up for at the end. But for being a game that's about I think it's like $20. I mean, did I get my money's worth out of it? I don't know. I don't like to judge games based on that, but it really did feel like I was kind of getting skimped out here, honestly. Which is another reason why I really couldn't recommend this one. The music's great. The music's good in the game, and as I've said before, the animations are fantastic. But there's not enough going on in this game to really fully recommend it. And Even though there's a lot of charm and I'm sure there's a lot of passion put into this game, I'm sure it took a while to animate all the things and make sure everything was working fine. But yeah, it's just not an amazing experience like I was really hoping it to be. And also, I had a lot of technical issues in this game. I had to restart the game a couple times. I ran into a bug where if you have a controller plugged into your computer, that you have to use the controller. You can't use the mouse if a controller is plugged in, which is really weird. So I had to unplug my controller. That was the solution to that, which wasn't too bad, all things considered. But there were other points where Mr. Koo would get stuck in an animation, or he wouldn't move. I couldn't get him to move, or there was one point where the legs were sitting on a chair, and no matter where I clicked on the screen, I couldn't get it to move, and I had to redo an entire like 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay because the legs got stuck. Or there was a section where I just I thought that I was doing something wrong, but there was only like three things to click on in the area, and none of the things were making sense. And I couldn't get the story to progress. I could move Mr. Koo around anywhere that I wanted to, but unfortunately, I had to restart the game because it bugged out. It wouldn't let me click on the fourth thing that I needed to click on to actually advance the plot of the game. And that's also very disappointing for a game like this. I know that game development is difficult, and I know that there's going to be bugs and stuff like that that are unforeseeable. But there is a threshold that I am not willing to give any leniency for, and Mr. Koo kind of goes past that threshold. Just like Jedi Survivor and other games that came out this year, like Redfall and stuff like that, that had technical issues up the wazoo. I cannot give Mr. Koo a pass simply because it is an indie game. I can't give it a pass because there's just so many technical issues. If it was just one time, sure, maybe I'd mention it on the podcast and move past it and be like, it was the only thing that happened. But I had a lot of technical issues in this game, and it's just kind of disappointing. It is a little bit disappointing to have such a broken experience. And there was one point where I was considering getting a refund for this game, simply because it was that moment where I couldn't get my mouse to work because my controller was plugged in, and I was about to message like Steam help, and I was about to get a refund because I'm like, the game's broken. I can't do anything in the game. I restarted it like 3 times now. And eventually I ended up like I like moved my hand towards where my controller is to grab something, and I hit my joystick, and that's when the arrow moved, or the pointer on the screen moved, and that's when I was like, oh shit, that's the issue. So I didn't end up refunding the game, but I was pretty close. I was pretty close. Look, if you're a fan of point and click adventure games, this one definitely has potential, but it just doesn't reach that potential. And for me to recommend this one would be dishonest to me, because I really don't recommend this one. Do I love indie developers? Yes, I love indie developers. I love the vibe that this game is going for, but unfortunately, this one just doesn't hit the mark in many different places. In the end, I gave it a 3 out of 5, which is just kind of average. I wish if there wasn't so many technical problems, it would probably be like a 3.5. So that goes to show how much other things were kind of bugging me during my playthrough. But I think the thing that really holds this game up is the graphical style, the different animations, and of course the music in the game is very pleasant to listen to as well. But unfortunately, the game just doesn't hit the highs that I was hoping it would. Maybe the sequel will do that. Maybe this was just a taste test and the sequel is coming, or an expansion is coming that's going to really show the power of Mr. Koo and his many different pieces. But as it stands, the title of the game is a little bit misleading because you don't really get the many pieces of Mr. Koo until the end. And also, it's just the price tag is a little bit misleading too. It's not really a full fleshed out experience. It is just like a taste of the game, what it has to offer. So in the end, the many pieces of Mr. Koo, it's a 3 out of 5. It's not a recommendation from me, and I definitely will probably not be talking about this game again on the podcast. And that was the final review. Thank you for listening.